Hey, look, I remembered to share my screen, Chloe. Aren't you proud of,
Yay.
aren't you proud of me?
Great job, Billy.
It makes you kind of want to not drive up to San Francisco and beat me with a stick, right? Or maybe you might want to. All right, so this is Victor. I'm seeing a map. I'm going to take my glasses off. It's hard to see up close. Yeah, I don't remember seeing this last week. This is new to us, Victor?
Yeah, I just updated it.
Okay. 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 They did a little camera shake for us there. You've got your panels numbered, your shot number correct, your slug is in there. So what is the motivation behind the lamp? The lamp is anthropomorphic. It comes to life, and it attacks our hero. And does our hero die?
I mean, it's up to you.
Well, it says explosion, so usually there's blood and guts with explosion. So is there, I'm just searching for any other kind of meaning that might be behind this. Is it just random?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I think it works just for a static shot. I think that I like the amount of distance and area you have between the panels, even though you didn't use it, you know. And I can see just by your little sketch that you have copy and paste things, which is fine. That gets you into and out of a project nice and quickly. I am just kind of wondering though. So the lamp causes an explosion and obliterates both of them. I'm almost just visually searching for that last frame of seeing the skeleton of the guy against the wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the broken lamp parts. And that's not to be that it has to be that way. It's just that you want to explore that. I think I wrote a note. Let me see if I can get this note out of here. I tried to reach for my pad of paper earlier today, and I knocked over everything on my desk. And I said some words I haven't said in a couple of days. Let me see if I can find it. So the reason that I say this is because, oh yeah, I don't know where I wrote my note. Oh wait, maybe it's here. Nope, it's not there. Well, the gist of the note goes like this. It's like you say to yourself as an artist, you evaluate it. The whole trick is trying to look at something like this, especially something like this, as if you didn't do it, as if it's part of your classmates. And part of being on Zoom, that we can actually get to that a little bit, because you are seeing your own work through Zoom. So there's a little bit of a separation. Remember, I did this for Alex last week where I said, step back from your work and tilt your head. Do you ever do that when the artist is like, they do that thing where they're like,
Yeah, pretty much on occasion.
What are they doing when they move their head like that? Is to try to get a different point of view on whatever their work is, even if it's theirs, to try to catch something that they may not have seen before. And in my notes, I just wrote this thing that says, as an artist, you always do that. You're always trying to find some sort of device or some sort of happenstance, some sort of thing that you build into your process or the way you do your work, so that you can try to trick your mind in your mind's eye into seeing your art as it wasn't yours. I'll never forget this time when I was trying to make this point to my drawing students at AI. And I said, okay, every week to start, we're going to have a 10-minute critique. And everyone has to put their best drawing from that week up on the wall, and they all have to be exactly the same height all the way across. You can put them anywhere you want on the wall, just make sure that they're not overlapping anybody's. Don't cover up any of your drawing with the tape. You know, had a bunch of little rules. And it's at that point when you could see all your classmates' drawings on the wall where you're like, oh, geez, mine stands out because it's horrible. Or mine stands out because it's really good. And it's easier to critique it that way. And then I meticulously took a piece of paper and wrote 1 through 10 on it and copy and pasted 1 through 10 times and cut it apart so that every student had 10 little pieces of paper with the best and the worst. And they had to go through the class and rate who is the best with a number 1, who is 10 with the worst. And they had to put the little 1 through 10 next to the drawings on the wall. And I didn't have to do that for too many weeks before all of a sudden, the couple of students were always getting the 1s and 2s, and a couple of students were always getting the 10s. And I said, okay, what do we do about this? One way to trick your mind's eye is to imagine that you didn't do it. The other thing that you want to do is then answer that one voice in your head that says, what does it mean? And for a shot like this, it's like, I do see that skeleton. You know, even though that you do say explosion and you draw the explosion, the thing that is curious to me is whether the lamp survives. Because if the lamp survives, then he's the villain. If the lamp didn't survive, then it's just the missile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so even though it would be just one extra panel, then that kind of brings the imagination to the surface of, okay, if it was just the missile, if it was just the bomb, who was controlling it? And then you can kind of extrapolate, well, maybe there is a villain in a room somewhere in New York with a bunch of remote control devices. Now, I think this is good. I appreciate the little pan right there. Your map, your script is good too. So yeah, that's worked. Can I see some hands for Victor, please? Thank you. Be careful of your file name. This could just be easily W5, week 5. You don't need all these letters in here, Victor.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Careful of your file name. See, Kalia's got a nice short one. All right, Kalia, you're up. Abby's room. So normally when you're doing a map for boards, well, you can follow it, but it's always good for evaluation when you draw your line of action on there, when you draw your 180-degree line. And I thought that I would I'm going to take a sidestep here for a moment, because I did put, well, maybe I didn't pin it to the board. Oh, no, I did. So this was like the right after class or Thursday morning last week. I found this little bit right here about not breaking the 180-degree rule, and they're using Adventure Time. And you all grew up with Adventure Time, or at least you know it. So if you follow that one, that makes a lot of sense, because they're saying, yes, you can do this, yes, 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 and no, don't do this one. And then I pinned a bunch of other things. This animation here from Klaus is really great. This is just a reminder that Chris Sanders is God. I mean, nobody draws like Chris Sanders. And this was just hysterical. I love this crazy snail here. And then because I clicked on Adventure Time, I got 2 other ones that got posted. And this was really good. I think that they're saying no to all of these, which is, it's really interesting because the silhouettes are wrong. You know, and here they're saying, keep this out of the TV safe area, which I've been screaming at for a month now, right? Just go like this so I know you're paying attention, right? And then they're saying, okay, yes, the final one is fine. It's got a nice little silhouette in there, and there's no tangents. That reads really well. This is Bill Peet, one of my favorite story artists of all time. Actually, these two right here are both Bill Peet, from Alice in Wonderland. This is great. This I just pinned today because they were just talking about the camera. Oh, and you know what? Oh no, I didn't pin this one yet. I didn't pin it because it's on Instagram and not Pinterest. This one is interesting. Let me play this for you. Starts with a circle. Watch what he's doing. And then he takes the circle and copy and pastes the circle and scales it and does a 180, right? See this? And he's making what's called a universal grid. And then he copy and pastes the line coming from the center. And he's showing you how to do basically infinite point perspective, but it's basically 3-point perspective. So that was nice. This is Mitch Lee, UWE on Instagram. And it's a really fundamental, great demonstration of what's called the universal grid. And you can get everything, 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 4, 5, 6, infinite number of point perspective using the universal grid. And it's funny that he didn't put this with all his hashtags in there. All right. This I thought was great because as you are all moving firmly into drawing with Cintiqs or Wacom tablets, I thought this was just a really nice view of what is a digital drawing. Whoever's drawing this has a command of their tablet, and they're drawing just as well as they could be on pencil. And you could tell that I was in a camera mode, right? Pinning things. I thought this was interesting, this one right here. That's a normal camera. Your horizon is right at eye level. And your low camera puts your horizon downwards. A high camera puts your horizon upwards. So these are nice. And this is Sarah Mansinga. The only thing that I need to tell you about Sarah Mansinga is that she and I are married. But the problem is that she hasn't met me yet. Damn. All right. I think we went over all these other ones. Yeah. So this story panel or the story stuff it's just really good, and reminding you that Scotty Young did this a while ago when Pinocchio was in development for Guillermo del Toro. And it should be coming out very soon. It should be coming out within a couple of weeks. I'm spelling everything wrong. Oh, it's just do Pinocchio. I'm spelling it wrong again. This one's really good. This Roberto Benigni Pinocchio, if anyone's got Netflix. This one's actually really good. So, it looks like the date's been moved to 2022, possibly. Oh, that's Robert Zemeckis. So there's Guillermo del Toro. So it looks like someone else is doing a Pinocchio as well. Robert Zemeckis. I don't know, maybe it got put on hold. Oh, darn it. It's there, but it's not showing me. Anyway, let's continue here. All right, so Kalia, remember when you're doing thumbnails, you should be drawing gesturally. Kalia.
Yes, okay.
And because you're drawing gesturally and with a line of action, every pose you draw should have a line of action in it. So, and because you're drawing a line of action, your drawings are often rough. So this is too clean for what should be thumbs. It's too clean and you don't have enough room between the panels to put the slug. And so that becomes a big deal when you're changing your mind and moving things around a little bit. It becomes a very big deal. All right, let's see what your story. So just a point for you all to kind of absorb here. Teaching storyboard class for many years, I've always tried to get you all to not put dialogue right on top of the story panel. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One is that in the cartoon, in the animated version of this, those words would not be there. That's the primary one. The secondary thing would be is that something else is. If we're looking at this and you're looking at this particular opening shot right here, and you say, oh, well, this character's head is left of the cinematic thirds for upper left and lower left, then when this character moves into position and she's standing on the focal points for the upper right and lower right, did you only put them this far away so that you could put this thought balloon in there? You know what I mean? Does this make sense, Kalia?
Yes.
So in other words, did you manipulate your poses because of the fact that you needed to put words in there? And where you really should have put the words underneath the story panel. That's where they belong. Unless, and what am I going to say, Chloe? I've said it before, unless, I put her on the spot. Alex? Unless what? Exactly. You tell me. I've said it before. Huh?
I wasn't paying attention for the last 30 seconds.
No, go through all the lectures we've had for the last 5 weeks.
Okay, what's the question?
Why would I not want dialogue in the story panel? How could you not be being able
Because it's not part of the camera?
Well, yes, I already said that. There's another reason. Or I said unless, Chloe?
Unless, oh, yeah.
Unless, this is a pop quiz. Unless,
Oh, I don't know.
or your
Unless
whole
it's
grade is based on-
animated?
What?
Unless it's animated and
Well,
you have
that's
speech bubbles?
yes, okay, but keep going. What did I say? How is it animated? What example did I use? All right, Alex, your whole grade is based on this question.
Okay, just give me an F and let's move on.
Okay.
Unless
What animated film was I referencing? Where they had
here.
where they had animated words in the story panel. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Just repeat it. Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That's correct. Now you get your grade back.
I like that movie.
I thought it was really great.
It was really
So, Kalia, if you were going to try to use your dialogue in the actual story panels, you could use it like you were doing the storyboards or the animation for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I cautioned everybody doing that because then it looks like you're just ripping off Spider-Verse.
So you want me to put the dialogue at the bottom of the
No, the
panel?
dialogue, yeah, underneath the story panels, but you can't do that because you crammed all your story panels together.
I'm sorry, I'm not used to drawing small, but I'll practice.
You have
more.
to draw small. You even put TB for thumbnail. Is that Game of Thrones thumbnail? I don't know what GO means.
It's supposed to be short for Get Out the Bed.
Oh,
That's the title of the the story.
Oh, all right, so, um, I think it's fine if you have like little briffets or cartoon embellishments, like breath or something, because that could be treated as a special effect. And it's good to have arrows. And if you've got room for it, if you know your pose is set like this, then you could certainly put the words in there for embellishment, especially like blur lines and speed lines, things like that. All right, so one of the things, so I think the drawings are, you're trying to find the final line as you're drawing. And I said this a couple of times last week and the week before. One of the reasons why I'm really pushing this thumbnail thing is because I
If you're
want you
talking now, you're muted.
drawing expressively and examining your poses and not trying to draw final storyboards right out of the gate. That's not what I want. What did I do? I have a magic mouse, and my magic mouse is. All right, so I think that one thing that we would want to explore is this the mom?
It's supposed to be her brother, but he just has long hair.
So I think that what you do then is you spend a few minutes up here designing your characters so that we know what their silhouette looks like. And so that you give each one of your characters a very distinct silhouette, and not that the characters should not have the same kind of hairdo. Because then when you're drawing the silhouette, and they both look the same, they could be twins. So why is the brother trying to get the sister out of bed?
He's trying to get her ready for school.
Oh, well, you didn't say that. See, and you could have been exploring that with, like when you were, when I was talking about this, the dialogue part of, hey, there it is. Drawing your story panel and saying, here's your story panel. The upper left is always your panel number. This is your shot number. This is your slug. So this is 2 seconds, and you missed that because you don't have enough room to put both of them on top of it. But then you have camera, right? Then you have dialogue underneath it. And then there was another thing where I put inner voice. What is that character thinking? And as an animator, this is a really good thing for you to put in there, because if this character is thinking something, and you could just put like a little pop, a little thought balloon. What is the boy thinking? What is the brother thinking? Come on, you have to go to school. And then in the next panel, the dialogue could actually say, come on, Chloe, you need to go to school. You know what I mean? And this distance here between your story panels becomes important. Then you can actually write in your direction. What is your screen direction? And then there's no problem. You draw an arrow like this, and then you repeat that, move screen right. And you have lots of room between your story panels to draw the background through the story panels. Remember that on day one of the things that I asked everybody to do was look at those little cardboard things that I gave you and just draw. And it looks like you are just drawing on paper, but you're cramming your panels way too close to each other. In the example here of the story panels, you can see that, well, those are just an example of camera. But like for this one, these productions, that's another example too. This one is a good one, just as an example, but they're just a little too close together for my comfort. this is a really good example of what I'm looking for in terms of thumbnails and drawing outside the frame so that you can get the characters correct, setting your perspective, setting your depth of field. This is a very anime way of working where the panels are just slammed right on top of each other. And that makes it very difficult to make any kind of adjustments. All right, so do you understand what I'm going at there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, can I see some fingers for Kalia, please? All right,
Thank
so
you.
you're welcome. So once again, I think that you will get more points if you redo this the way I want it. Because this is like 2 steps further than what I wanted. You're supposed to be exploring the idea of how to do thumbnails and doing them fast. All right? All right. Carmen.
Can I submit mine even though it's the deadline already?
Well, I'll get to yours when I get to yours.
Okay.
All right, Carmen, script. Oh, that says breakdance move. I thought this says beard dance. And I was going to ask you what a beard dance is.
Yeah, sorry, I wrote that kind of fast.
That's okay. I like the idea though. Do a beard dance. All right. Your map, your cameras, your dance battle, perspective, sketch quality, good, panel numbers. And you're putting the title card over the first panel, that's fine. You could actually even animate it. You could start with the title card in the middle and then animate it off that way. All right, camera move. A couple of different drawing styles on the same panel, which is fine. Okay. So he's going to do his little dance thing. He goes over her. Careful. Okay, I'll buy that. Panel 9 to panel 10 is not a cut. Okay, I'll buy that. Okay, yeah, this is called a zip pan. Carmen?
Yeah, I couldn't remember what it was called.
Yeah, that's fine. The speedily pans, that's fine. And then it pans back. Okay. Why does he drop his drinks?
Because he like sees them together and he's just shocked.
Oh, I see. So what I interpreted was that this was position 1 for the guy, and then this was position 2. So this is actually
Oh,
the
yeah.
third guy.
Uh-huh.
So there's a third guy here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in order to be clear, that what you do here is you repeat this panel. So you just take everything in this panel and you draw it over again. So, you know, just imagine that you have panel 6B and everything is the same. And your girl's sitting there. The chair is sitting, everything's the same. And your lead character actually goes off the screen to reveal that there's another guy in the background over here. And then by the time you get to this panel and this one, that we know that this is character A, that this is character B, and this is character C, just for clarity. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I think that would make things much more clear.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so because I think that what you're trying to do there is you're trying to tell a mechanical action with a camera that's just a little bit too far away. If you were to play it right here where he walks off and we see all 3 characters in the same shot, then that establishes it much better. All right, so he's only asking her to dance, right?
Yeah.
character C. So why is our lead character so upset?
I don't know. He's just kind of crazy and overprotective, I guess.
But she hasn't reacted yet. These two characters are still 6 feet away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you need to give him some suspicion
Mm-hmm.
where that she actually gives her hands to him and that she stands up and they actually dance. And then all of a sudden he could be as furious as he wants.
Yeah.
And then our lead character runs back and cuts in between them or rips him apart or something.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so between panel 17 and 18, this new guy here, this is the new guy.
Yeah.
And the new guy is the one who does the dancing moves.
Mm-hmm.
And your girl character is still unimpressed. And
Yeah.
you know, and I think you could do that. You could do a quick zoom in on her face and go, you know, God, boys are the worst, you know. And again with the inner voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, God, boys are the worst. And then they do their dance off thing. You know, and then she puts her hands on her face like, oh, she's applauding.
Yeah.
So I think you need to be careful because that reads like this. Oh,
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
what did Alex do today? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think your camera is just a little too far away to get this reaction to read correctly. So the new guy kind of crashes into the catering table, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she claps for her boyfriend.
Yeah, I kind of ran out of time. So the
Well,
ending is a little
Well, I
abrupt.
think you've got the idea, and it's a good place to be right now, discussing all kinds of different things. You have your slugs set at 2 seconds, 1 second, a quarter second, a half a second, a quarter, and a quarter. You know, we'll try to get to the animatic part of this by the end of the semester, but this slug thing will become important here, where you really don't want any two story panels to have the same duration of time, because it'll end up reading like clockwork or railroad tracks. But I think that what this gives us is a chance to discuss what actually happens. You know, I think that this is fine that she claps for her boyfriend, but it might be more interesting if she goes home with the bartender. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because those two thought that that's what she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Those two thought that that's what she wanted. Those two thought that their antics would impress her. Or you don't even have to do that. You could just say that she sees like a stray kitten in the doorway and she goes over to take care of the stray kitten and let the boys do their stupid dance stuff out there, you know. And because that's what these faster thumbnails are about. That's what studying it like this is all about. All right, thank you, Carmen. Let's have some applause
Thank
for
you.
Carmen, please. Maurizio, you submitted this yesterday. You've got your map. Nothing like a raven pooping on a zombie. This is going to be a good one. Okay. Okay, this is pretty well done here. So what I would like to know, oh, this is the raven.
Yeah,
Maurizio.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I think that you want to maybe draw a couple of different positions for the raven. And you could do that in the same panel. So here he's like then you draw him flying. Sorry. And then, so this is pose A, pose B, and then you draw him like over here. And then you have this kind of pose here where he actually lands.
Okay.
So this is C, and this is pose D. And then you could draw little dotted lines just to be really clear. Because then in this shot, if you want the shot to open up, just, you know, on the top of this cross first, and then he enters, then it's perfectly acceptable to have a panel 4 be without the bird. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Panel 4 would be without the bird. This is great. I can ruin your drawing and not ruin your drawing. So so panel 4 would be without the bird, and then panel 5 would be with the bird. He comes
Okay.
in, right?
Yeah.
I like how I did that. That was kind of cool. All right, so then some dude, okay, and then. Okay, so he poops on his head, and then he's like, I didn't do it. And then he winks at the camera and flies away. Okay, this is great. Yeah, this is exactly what you would need to do for a story like this. I'm just gonna take a quick guess. To me, it looks like you're drawing digitally. Are you drawing in Photoshop?
I'm using Fresco.
Okay. So my last question would be, this looks like you might have spent an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Something like that. Yeah.
So this is good. The drawings are sketchy. They're loose. You're studying it well. Yeah, this is great. Maurizio, these are great. Can I have some hands and applause for Maurizio?
Thank you.
This is good. It's off the beaten path. It's kind of weird. I like it. You know, the zombie, and then all of a sudden he gets taken out by a bunch of white stuff. This is clever. I like this. And you leave him sitting right there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. But,
So the only thing I didn't do was the slugs, because I'm still a little bit confused on how exactly to work that. But I mean,
what, between panels 16 and 17?
well, just the slug in general. I didn't put any time on any of them, just because I don't know. I'm unsure of how to.
Sure. What I'm asking you to do is just remind yourself that that's where it goes. Because, you know, I can't put any value on this right now, but this would be like 2 seconds or 2 or 4 seconds. And then your establishing shot, it's going to zoom out. So you could actually have 3 seconds right here. You could have, it's either 3 seconds or 72 frames. Sorry, my Zoom thing is not letting me draw right now. So yeah, it's just me asking you to give it a try.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it more in depth
Great.
when we get to animatics. But this is great. Yeah, this works really well.
Thank you.
Gracias, Maurizio. Vivian.
I submitted a newer one.
That's what I see. OS1.
I submitted one like 2 minutes ago.
Okay, let me refresh. There we go. 2, OS2.
Yes.
Okay. They're in an underwater lava land. Okay. Okay. And a reminder that this works. The 180-degree line is parallel with the top and bottom of your map plane, which means that it can be anywhere you want. The 180-degree line can be in the deep background if you'd like. So that's good. All right, so these work. I remember seeing these last week, and so you've kind of fleshed this out a little bit more. All right, so so both of these volcanoes are volcano monsters, right? They're lava monsters. So I think that the way that this reads a little better here is that you take it easy on your eye and you say, well, this monster here's got a face, right? So you draw that face over here. And so that we can see it, you know, it's almost near the focal point. And I don't know what these are, but you put them in
Supposed to be rocks.
rocks. So you put them in here too. And then literally you are in this project here, you are starting from this position and you're pulling out to reveal, or I'm sorry, you're going from this position to push into this lava monster over here, right? And then we stay there, but then literally we pull out from this position, which is right here, into this new position. So your camera moves are missing. And I think that the other thing that's missing is that, so between this shot here and this shot, we still see those two mountains in the background, right? So,
Yeah, so if you look at the map, those are two volcanoes actually. The lava monster is hiding behind the left volcano.
okay. Okay, and so is it just one lava monster?
Yes,
Oh, I thought there were two.
but there are two volcanoes.
Two volcanoes, okay. All right, let me clear this.
But that's a good idea. Like one of the volcano turns into a monster.
Is that part of the story though?
No, but I can make it part of the story.
Well, you could. I mean, that's what a storyboard class is all about here. So I think that if that is true, then I did miss something. And that is that the thing that you would want to do is that you would want to show that the lava monster is coming from here and going this way. Right? Right? You see what I'm doing?
Uh-huh.
So the lava monster is right here and he moves through space this way and he goes like this, but then your camera has to be here as well. You know, so you look at panel 2 and in panel 1, you have this wider shot here. So if you want to get panel 2 correctly, then you need to do a truck. You need to go from your wider position into this position. And then you stay there for panel 3. And then in order to get to panel 4, you come back out again. So then from panel 4, you really just, yep, well, let me draw it this way. You draw the whole thing wider like this. And then you pull out, you pan or pull or truck or zoom out to reel. So that gives you that camera move correctly. All right, so then let me just take a look at something here.
So do I actually put those instructions in?
Yeah, you put them underneath the story panel. You write the words, camera zooms into the lava monster. Camera pans out or zooms out from the camera, from the lava monster. Because I think that what you're trying to do here is you're trying to set the stage that the lava monster is scaring these two characters here. And by the time you get to panel 5, You forgot about your horizon and your perspective. And so so are you drawing this in Photoshop? What program are you drawing this in?
Procreate.
Procreate. So here is a good hint for you. So in this shot right here, this is very similar to your establishing shot. So here you set up your whole environment. You set up your perspective grid. You set up the perspective in the sky. And remember that example that we were looking at before, that those lines are actually curved. They're not just straight. And then you draw your, mountains, you draw your whole environment, and then you just copy and paste in each one of these panels. Or whatever, you copy and paste this whole thing so that now you've got a lot to work with, and that you know that all you have to do is then draw the characters moving around on top of that background. And if you need to erase a little bit of it so that it's clear, then you can do that. Because by the time you get to panel 5 and 6, 7, and 8, the characters are floating, and we don't know where they are. So I think that if you were to have copy and pasted the backgrounds, it would have given at least the background and midground elements a place to live. And then you could have concentrated just a little bit more on the poses. All right, so they're afraid of the monster. The volcano erupts. All right, so this is a technical cut here between panel 8 and panel 9. So you have to be careful, because what I asked for is just a one shot here. And the way to handle that is if you, again, draw the thing bigger so that we know that let's say this is the volcano that's going to be erupting. And so you move from this position into what would be panel 9's position over here. Does that make sense? So you do a diagonal pan, or like we said last week, the week before, it's in this case, it's either a diagonal pan or a truck. Same kind of terminology. Because technically what you're doing here is that your characters are becoming brave. I'm scared of the, we're gonna have to fight. She turns to fight the monster, and all of a sudden this is a cut. And remember, I asked you this is just a one shot. So in order to make this not a one shot, there has to be a pan up to the mountain, and then you can pan back out to reveal that your characters are gonna fight them. All right, and then the gag is that the volcano turns into a silly character at the end. Okay.
I'm just not good at drawing,
No.
but the
Well-
monster is supposed to be happy because the kids ran.
Oh, I see. All right, so in order to, because that looks like the monster or the lava monster is just being silly, right? So this is where I imagine the head of the lava monster to be, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so you missed something, and I think that if you want your kids to run, then you study what a running pose look like. You just go head, line of action. What does it look like when a character's running? Sometimes you run with your hands straight out and you're looking backwards and you're like, ah! And so you study what running characters look like. Get their feet moving, get their arms up in the air, because here they're dancing. This can be confused with just dancing or just reacting. You say ran away, that's your verb, but this is the action of verb. This is the action of running, right? And then if they're running, they're like off the ground. So you put their little shadows underneath them. You see what I'm doing? All right, and so if I didn't pick up on this word right here, then they look like they're just scared or whatever, or they're confused because now the lava, the volcano is turned into this silly character. And you kind of just have to sort of be a little bit careful because that's what I'm seeing. Your drawings are still a little rough. And because you didn't pan up to this character, again, this looks like a cut between panel 11 and 12. And you don't have the proper running pose going off the screen or the zoom up or the pan up to the lava monster. It reads as a different ending to the story. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So I think that what you need then is just some better thumbnails, because I think that they need to run away, not towards the volcano, and a little bit better camera work, so that it's just not confusing. All right, can I see some
Okay.
hands for Vivian, please, everybody? Laura? 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 ¿Dónde está Laura? What did I do with my roster?
In su casa.
Oh, there it is. Oh, Laura's not here right now. She's getting yelled at for her file name. That's what I'm yelling at. There's a space in the file name and their file name is too long. This is being recorded, so she might see that later. All right, so she's got a map. We saw this last week. We saw the whole thing last week, so this is not new. Yeah, that is not new for us. I want to see. I want to see progress. All right, Anthony.
Yo.
Okay, character design. That's a bird. So in case anyone didn't know that this is a bird, Anthony drew a little arrow indicating that that's a bird. Okay. All right, so the bird did poop in the ice cream, which is what I wanted. I wanted to do my typical rant right here. This is why I get paid my $15 an hour. This is a really bad tree, Anthony. You are not allowed to draw trees like this. You can't do this, even in just a really quick thumbnail study like this. Oops, I went too far. So what you need to do is set the stage, draw the horizon. Where is this tree? What kind of tree is it? Is it a maple? Is it an oak tree? And to get some sort of relative proportion in there, that's important. If you want to get the tree so that it's interacting with this character, then you get the character, you draw it sitting, it's on the picnic bench, you draw your background, your perspective, then you draw your tree, you draw it in perspective, you draw the branch coming up here with just a little leaf on it. You see what I'm doing?
Yep.
You draw the cross beams from the picnic bench, you draw his arms up, you draw his cereal bowl, you draw another tree back here that gives it depth, and you play with the design just a little bit. But for this tree, the branches are huge, right? See this?
Okay.
And there's room right here for your bird to play around. So now your bird can just play right here, and he's sitting there, and that's just enough room. You can move him over a little bit, and there is your setup.
Okay. Okay.
So this kind of setup right here is a little bit different than drawing trees that are gonna make Billy really mad. Because this is not tree, this is a piece of cauliflower or broccoli.
Okay.
Evil, these are evil trees. So I think that your problem comes from your map.
Okay.
And that the idea would be is that if you wanted that branch to be right here, so draw the trunk of the tree small, and then draw the leaves of the tree really big, and then this branch coming right over him. And remember that branch can just be, it could have less leaves on it. So there's just like a little cluster of leaves right here. Maybe there's another one over here that tells that same kind of same kind of story. All right, so that sets it up. That gives you some stuff to play with in the background. You've got a lot of space right here. All right, I'm gonna move away from this. If you wanted to take a screenshot, grab that really quickly.
All right, got it.
All right, so I want you to be careful because you are doing sketches, you are doing thumbnails, but you're repeating the same tree mistake.
Yeah.
And I think that you're
Multiple thing.
repeating the same tree mistake just because your map is giving you trouble here. You're also using the wrong aspect ratio. So remember, everything that we're doing here is 16:9, unless you want to convince me that you want to work in 1.85 or 2.1. Something more movie-ish or cinematic. You
Okay.
always have to use the right aspect ratio. All right, remember 4 seconds is a long time, right?
Okay. Yeah.
96 frames is a long time. All right, so he's eating his ice cream. All right, so your story is working. You're following your script really well. The ice cream hits the bird. Oh, and it kills the bird. Oh, so be careful. Whenever you draw crosses in the eyes like this, that means death.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you want to draw the character that they're just dazed,
Do like the swirls?
little
Yeah.
eye
okay.
rolls,
Okay.
and you could do little dots, like they're drunk almost, like that.
Okay.
But if you draw a character, even a simple character, and you put lines in their eye, crosses, they're dead.
Weird.
And it's the universal cartoon thing that has been going on for about 60 years now. And the guy who invented it actually drew the comic strip Mort Walker, the comic strip called Beetle Bailey in the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Okay.
He's the one who coined a whole bunch of terms for comic books. All right, so your bird is still alive and he gets mad and he flies and poops right on the spoon as he eats it. And I think that this is fine. You can end right there. But I think that the better way to end this would be is that remember it's 16:9, right?
Yeah.
That you have your character sitting at the table, right? And then you get into the camera, you're like, look at me in the monitor. And you're like, what? So you do this thing where his spoon is in his mouth, his hand is still grabbing it, he's still got his elbow up, but you do like one eye really big and the other eye really small. And then you're like one eyebrow up and one eyebrow down. And you're like, what?
Okay.
And you play with this. I think that the idea would be is that he's just taken a bite of what he thought was ice cream. And you're like, and so this might not actually work really well. And so you study that pose again. You know,
Okay. Okay.
so
See?
you put his eye pupils together and you get both eyebrows up what does it look like if one eyebrow is down and you move this one, you animate it down? Right? Or you do the thing where you do, oh, sorry. You do that. You know, so it's just like a normal thing, but his pupils are like, what? And so I think that this, you play with this pose right here, and this starts to work right here. You know, or you use all three, right? You go from angry to what to, oh no, his pupils become completely constricted, right? And so playing with that facial thing here might help you with panels 21, 22, 23, and really exploring this as a bunch of thumbnails. You want to take a quick shot of that?
Yeah, give me 1 second. All right,
Then, got it?
Yeah.
And then you don't even need the bird up in the tree. If you do that facial expression correctly, you could just have the bird as a voiceover off the screen, and you don't really need this. Okay, you got that idea?
Yeah.
Can I see
Sounds
some
good.
Anthony, please? Hey. All right, Alex. All right, we saw the beginning of this last week, right?
I changed, the only thing I changed was I added the camera movement, and I redrew one panel because that came from the camera movement. So it's all in green.
Okay. Okay. Oh, for some reason, it was only for about 2 hours on social media this week that I was hoping it was right here. I don't know where I put it. Hold on 1 second. Hey, where did I put it?
It's a black hole.
Yeah, I went to a black hole. Oh, here.
Wow, my story drove
no,
you
no,
into a black hole.
No, the snails were trending on social media this week for about 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, that one is so cool.
Arg.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That's for the next level of storyboarding.
Right. If you want, I could put that in the chat.
I think it was on your Pinterest.
Did I pin it?
I thought so. It's really hard to find things, but oops.
Well, it's
Yeah.
good to start, you know, here. Yeah, it is right there.
Yeah.
And then you click on it, and maybe you can find the artist, right? Jürgen Doe. That's not the artist.
No.
So yeah, and it was that was trending.
Oh, he
before.
did a turtle. All right, I'm gonna go look at this. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but that's not the same artist. I recognize that signature.
Well, still, weird turtles are interesting.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I do like the idea that he says hi, and then they both say I love you, and then he eats him. Okay, so this is all working pretty well. Everything is looking good. Just a couple of suggestions, and that is that break apart your slug. Remember, I did. Hopefully, I did this for you all already. But when you're thinking of your slug, start with 1 second equals 24 frames. 2 seconds equals 48 frames. And it might be easier to switch these guys to frames, right? because 3 seconds is these two together, so that's 72 frames. And then 4 seconds is 96, right? You add those two together, right? You get 96 frames, and then you go in between. So what is 1.5? That is 36. Sorry. What is, so that's a good place to start. You know, a half a second is 12 frames. 2.5 seconds is,
Oh, the one that you circled, that's 0.5 seconds.
yeah, I
That's-
know.
Oh, okay.
But it might be easier for you to switch here.
Oh,
And
to
you-
call it.
And you do
I see.
yourself a map for your slug.
Okay.
You do yourself a card and you just keep this with you so that if you want to.
Oh, I know, I know.
So if you have 3/4 of a second, then that is 18
18.
frames. And you can switch all of this to the frames.
All right. Do I have to do it again or
Oh,
can I do
no,
it
no,
next
no, no,
week?
no, no. I'm just
I
putting it
will-
out there.
I'll do it next week because
Yeah.
that's,
All right, and then just the other thing is that you're kind of drawing rectilinearly.
yes, for the turtle, that's. kind
And
of
I
what
just did this week too. It was just a really quick study. What I would recommend is maybe studying what the head of that turtle looks like as an oval, that like this one right here. And then you've got his neck coming out. And then you've got the little hole in his shell. Right? But for this pose here, and this would just be for anyone who wants to try this kind of drawing style, is that you kind of think about it just in terms of straight lines. So you start like at the bottom of his shell. You draw what's in front first, and you draw a little heavy, and you just draw straight lines. That's all you do, is you're just drawing straight lines. But you're creating curves with the straight lines because you're overlapping them a little bit. The neck is a straight line. Oh, you cheated a little bit because there's a curve. So, and then you can erase that part, but then you describe the shape of his head with just a bunch of straight lines. Get his mouth open and get his teeth and get this kind of thing working. You get it, if he's going to be mad, then just draw the angry thing, but you try to draw it with just a bunch of straight lines. It's a nice little exercise. When illustrators are doing this, sometimes they'll make the point by drawing the lines extra. They'll draw them like a little extra long and not so exact, so that there's a little shape like that at the end. And it's perfectly appropriate. So, and I would recommend studying a pose like this with something like this, because then you can really see what the silhouette of his teeth look like. And you're training your hand to just draw straight lines, right? You're just like, you could go in and put like a little shadow right there. You could even go in and start thinking of whatever the texture on the turtle shell looks like with a bunch of straight lines. It's a good thing, just because when you're drawing straight lines, you're clamoring to do the S shapes, you're clamoring to do those curves. And it might be a nice little exercise for you,
That's good.
especially if you're doing this. If you're doing an ECU on his face, then I think that you need to borrow something silly, right? So you go, and so, I can't do it. I can't switch to me in the monitor, but I go, what does it look like? And so if he gets his little hand up in front of his face, and you start out with his eyes wide open, right? Like, oh my, I just ate a squirrel. Or on social media today, there was a seagull eating a rabbit. Did anybody see that? It was incredible, actually. So you start with your eyes like this, and then you're like, that looks like he's sick. Oh, so you do like, Oh, that looks like he's sick too. So I think that you would want to study what this pose looks like. So you make him happy. And just a little bit of his eyelids. And then it reads like he's happy. You get his little, you get the little cheeks up in there. And he's really happy that he's just eaten his escargot. So studying, so you see what I'm talking about?
Maybe that's what I
And it's
should
good
call it.
because you've got where the camera is, but then you're studying the poses here, just out here in the margins, which is perfectly fine. All right, you want to grab a screen of that?
I did.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I've been talking way too long. Let's take a break. Let's take 10 minutes, please. 15 minutes. Take a 15-minute break.
Are we clapping for
Oh, yeah,
Alex?
sorry. Yay, thank you, Alex. Because you want your poses to read. I don't think that I set drawing silhouettes as its own assignment. But it's part of every pose that you ever draw. Remember that the one thing that I had pointed you all towards was the Flooby Newbie. You just type in Flooby Newbie, you type in line of action. And just to get there quickly, you draw Mickey's, and you should be able to get there just by writing in Mickey's, because it's part of Flooby Newbie's Mickey's Christmas Carol. And the very first thing when they're talking about a line of action is the silhouette. You know, and they talk about drawing three-dimensionally. Then they're talking about drawing with the line of action here and in live action poses. There's a bunch of stuff. They talk about drawing three-dimensionally with perspective. Then they get back on the idea of the line of action. And this stuff is great. This stuff right here is just really wonderful. It's really done well. It explains it well in terms of storyboards. So like a pose like this, you should always be thinking of the silhouette. You can't animate SpongeBob without thinking of the silhouette. Does that answer your question, Vivian?
So this Flooby Newbies, this should be our model when we work on the character design, because you told us we should be working on our character design. It won't be due soon. You said like in December, but we should be working on
Right.
it already.
Yeah, right, exactly. So if you want to, you can do the storyboard and say, oh, I want to design the character a little more, or put the characterization in a little more deeply. And so that lives come on, little computer. It's not that hard. I'm not asking you to do a whole bunch of stuff. So that lives, oh, that's the wrong class. You know where it is. It's just the first two things in the grade book here. And I haven't even looked at them for real yet. We're looking at this one right here. But I will deliver these grades near the end of the quarter, or the semester. So what you should be doing is plopping in, or you can copy and paste all of the characters from your entire semester when you're doing your character design. And again, with your stories, you can copy and paste them, or I can look at your marks as we go along, and I can just extrapolate. I can go backwards. I can do it for you, but yeah, I'm not going to grade these until the end of the semester, because I want you to be improving as you're going along.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Let's go back here. All right, it looks like I'm sharing, but I don't know if I'm recording yet. Am I recording?
Yes.
Okay. It's funny that I can't see that on Zoom. It doesn't tell me I'm recording. when I'm in this mode. Okay, so we finished with Alex. Did we clap for Alex? Yay! All right, we have a couple more to do here. Chloe. All right, so I only gave you a little bit to do last week, right?
Yeah, I kept the story the same, but I added some camera changes since I changed it from a static camera to add some trucking and panning and stuff.
Okay.
So the map is the same too. I just put it I just replaced the new boards
Okay.
or thumbs, sorry.
Okay. And now they're a little too small. Last week they were too big. I can make
I
it.
keep trying.
I can make it bigger. No, this is fine. All right. Establishing shot, kitchen, singing along, turning, going off. Camera follows, bending down. She goes into the refrigerator, and whenever you open a refrigerator, you know something bad's about to happen in the cartoon world, right? So she looks at her milk. She goes back, she turns, and indeed something horrible has happened. The whole stove has caught fire. Now, I thought that the fire became a character.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what direction I wanted to take it in, so I just ended it here because before I started adding more, I wanted to ask you what you thought of I guess what I have so far in terms of the changes I have with the camera.
Well, this is all the setup. And so if you have a story that has a beginning and a middle and an end, this is all of these panels right here are your setup. And then
Okay.
all of a sudden, this is the middle, this is the crisis.
Okay.
So this is the fight. This is the duel. This is Darth and Luke going at it right here. And so I think you just need to finish it.
Okay.
Do you know what you want to do?
I think I was going to, well, also too, because I think you said it was supposed to be about 10 seconds. I didn't know how much time I would have to put in a character. Like I can add another like 10 more panels. I just didn't know if that, because I didn't know if you were going to.
Well, I think
you
that,
expect-
remember what I talked about last week and the week before, if you want to figure out how long an action takes, then set yourself on the kitchen counter and put yourself like right there at the stove and set your stopwatch on your iPhone and click start. And then whistle, turn, go off, go to the refrigerator, open the refrigerator, look inside, grab it, look at, turn, and stop. You know, it's going to be 7 or 8 seconds.
Okay.
You know, unless you go really slow. But then remember too that when you're animating this, you can always play with your timing. You can make things go a little faster or a little slower. But yeah, I think that you've got an interesting thing happen because it only has been a few seconds.
Okay.
So I think that you do want to play with this fire becoming a character.
Okay.
You want to play with him. It's not just a fire, it's the character who's the fire. Now I'm trying to think that if the character that was a fire in Fern Gully 2, no, that was in Fern Gully, it was the sludge monster, the forest sludge monster. There's a bunch of cartoons out there where the fire is a cartoon. And so what I'm doing right here is I'm kind of drawing like a what would be like a mask. And I'm intentionally kind of trying to keep it like these are horns, but it's a little bit more organic. So one is a little bit longer, a little bit taller. And so I did that intentionally. And these are like the ears and they're going backwards. And then these two are like maybe his cheeks or something. And then these are just like the fire part of it. And so, you know, this isn't random. And so then you can put like the the eyes in there. And then fire often has the little bits that are breaking away. Right?
Mhm.
And then I think that you can make it even more angry. More sinister. And then I think the idea is once you do this, then you figure out what these panels look like. You know, what happens? Who
I
wins?
have it. I have an idea. What do you think if in the next panel? So in the last panel I have panel 16, you see the fire, and then 17 the eyes appear, like it takes on a shape that looks more like monstrous instead of just like kind of like a amorphous shape.
Right.
And then the next one, if they could battle with like the character pulls out like a fire extinguisher and they're just like she starts spraying and then the fire monster starts, I don't know, either starts dissipating and the character wins or the fire monster spreads too fast and then all the panels are just consumed with flame and that's the end.
All right, so I don't always do this,
Mhm.
but I'm just gonna play with this for a second. So what this is the fire kind of trying to duck out of the way of the fire extinguisher. So she's got the fire extinguisher and she's pushing it on the fire, but the fire is ducking out of the way. Because it's sentient, it's alive,
Mhm.
character. And so the eyes have kind of jumped away from it. They're actually off the main form. And it's just mad. So she's trying to put the fire extinguisher and get her out. And so head, line of action, she's leaning forward. She's got one foot steady and the other foot is really far behind, right?
Mhm.
There's a dynamic there, you know, and you just study that pose with the fire extinguisher close to her body. Her other arm, you can't see it, it's in silhouette. So if you like this direction of the fire trying to get out of the way, then you set up a duel. And then you have to figure out who wins.
Okay. Is that okay? Is that okay for like timing wise? Because you said that it's about 7.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I can just add on a little bit more to finish it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I think that one of these kind of things is good because it sets up how aware the fire as a character is, as
Mhm.
opposed to her dousing the fire and then the fire coming back alive. Like it's one of those birthday candles that you can't blow out, you know? But it also doesn't let her win right away.
Mhm.
It sets up a duel and then you can play with the idea that it's possible that, you know, her hair kind of looks like fire as it is, right?
Mhm.
You know, so that could be a thing. It's that he sets out one of his little, so she does this, and then he sets out his own little fire thing too in the similar kind of special effects kind of way. And it takes her hair shape right here and makes it into fire. And then as he's laughing, she can just go over there and turn the knob on the stove, which kills him.
Mhm.
So she wins, but she lost her ponytail. You know, it's just something to think about. If you want, I can, here, let me do this right now. Do you want to take a quick shot of that?
It's okay. It's recorded, so I'll go back to
Okay. All right,
the
so
video.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing this for a moment. I'm going to go back to my special effects board, and I use this exclusively for the Academy, right? Because I have a special effects class. So I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to put it in the classroom. So in the discussion area, so for everybody, if you want to look at my effects board. Stop it. What's going on? Why? Stop it. Hey. I don't know why it's doing that. That's really weird. All right. Set this to open from today. To the end of the year, save and publish. All right, let me know if you can't see that, because I don't know if that link got set correctly. But the idea is the story. You just need to finish it. Don't-
Did you send something, Billy?
What did I do?
Did you send anything?
No, I didn't send it. I put it in our classroom.
Oh, classroom. I'm sorry,
Why do you want me to
misunderstood.
put it in the chat?
Oh, no. It's okay. I just misunderstood.
Yeah, I put it in the chat, in the classroom, but it's in the chat there now too.
Okay.
But I put it in the classroom so that it's available for everybody. And then you can always just subscribe to that board if you want.
Mhm.
And I've been adding to that board for 5 years. There's some good stuff in there. Did I say good? There's some good stuff in there. Yeah, but don't give me a cliffhanger.
Okay. I'll make sure to have it done.
And for whatever it's worth, the one of my professors from San Francisco State, I came onto my Zoom class last week a little early, and or 2 weeks ago, and he recommended that I watch The Wire. Has anyone ever watched The Wire? It's a TV show from a couple of years ago, and it's about cops and drug dealers in Baltimore. And it's got a really high production value. It's got critical acclaim. The actors are all really good. There's nobody famous, and nobody that had done The Wire has gone on to like exponential fame now. But the stories are really good. But the stories are told like in real time, and they take an hour. And by the time the hour is over, you're like, well, I'm not going to binge watch this. I'm going to watch one every other day, right? But I've watched like 6 episodes so far, and only one guy has died. You know, that's kind of the drama. You know, in a cops and drug dealer situation, it would be, 3 or 4 dead bodies every episode. But the intensity comes from the acting. But the weird thing is that I don't have resolution yet. I've watched like 5 episodes and they haven't caught the bad guy yet. So it's like this constant cliffhanger. And it's great if it wants to leave you watching more, but I can't watch 60 episodes. So I'm gonna have to like get to the end of season 1 after it's like 13 episodes at the season 1. And then take a deep breath and go, I'm going to watch something else. I'm going to go watch some love story or something. So yeah, I don't like cliffhangers. And I don't think that you should like cliffhangers too, unless there's a reason for that. And because there are some movies where things are just not quite figured out. And that's fine too. You don't have to like resolve all the loose story threads. Fellini did that brilliantly. He'd always have all the main plot and all these subplots, and then when the film ended, there were things about all those little subplots that were still in question, and that's fine. You should do that. You know, there's a really wonderful film. Audrey Tautou. She played in Amelie, and she was in the Da Vinci Code against Tom Hanks. Have you seen either one of those 2 movies?
No, I haven't.
Well, I highly recommend Amelie. It's just really, really, really wonderful. But she did a movie called A Very Long Engagement. And the movie just has like this ending where you're not quite sure exactly what is going to happen. You know, the ending happens, but you're like, there's still story that's going to go on. And in your mind, you're like, oh, yeah, you don't quite know. And this Jean-Pierre Jeunet, the director, he's great. This movie, Micmacs, is just completely crazy, wonderful. All kinds of strange and bizarre things happen in this movie. It's really great. 2009. But he really got his start in 1991 with a movie called Delicatessen. And I think this is on HBO Max or something. But if you can see can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So there's a streaming service called Bflix right here. And sometimes you can get like really odd movies to show up. Sometimes they have advertisements or little fly-up menus that you have to push away. But it's really great if you're trying to find something that the main streaming services don't have. But this movie, A Very Long Engagement, has a really different ending. It's like, oh, you know, it's not like Star Wars. So I like this. Look at his face. Jean-Pierre Jeunet. All right, so let me stop. We have some stuff to do here. Back to here. Do we clap for Chloe?
No,
Yay!
Thanks, Billy. I'll make sure
You're
to finish.
All right, we have Magnus. Magnus. You're here tonight, Magnus, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we got a map, 180 degree, desert. It's a nice little sketch right there. Okay, we saw some of this last week, right?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So this was all working. Now, when you did this, which I recommended, that reads okay, and it lands.
And I fixed the ground word there to make it clear.
Yeah, that's fine. And this looks like a puppet, so it booms, okay. All right, so I think this is fine. I think that the only thing that really needs some attention is just, you know, I don't want a sock puppet. You really need to just go take this and it is what it is. And I'm sorry because you know, I've been a film and animation critic for many years, and when you say it is what it is, it's like, ugh, you know, that's like a bad thing. It's like that's C work, you know. So take this and figure out what your character looks like. Figure out what your character looks like in a regular standing pose. You know, many humans are about 8.5 heads tall. Usually the body is about twice the height of the head, right? So kind of get that body going. And then the legs are about 2 times equal. So figure out what that character looks like. Think about the anatomy. Think about, you know, the arms come down about mid-thigh. You know, what does your little character look like? Even in thumbnail, what does he look like, right? Head, line of action, volume on the body, volume on the hands. And this is a good place to sketch, to go from your little sock puppet to this, and then bring it up even bigger and figure out what he actually looks like. Then draw him a little bigger, use the same process. Build him in perspective, use anatomy. You know, so so keep going, right? If you need to draw even bigger. And remember that, well, this is recorded. You can grab that whenever you would like, but remember that what I often do, oops, hold on, is I'll talk about a character, any drawing of a character that you do really should be in some sort of perspective. And to make that point, I always put in Donald Duck. And then you put in drawing. and then you put in perspective, and it should come right up. And it's not. Switch it to images. And then the first image, it's like everything about that drawing is in perspective. And so don't try to cheat it, and don't stop, right? You got to keep going. You got to go from the sock puppet into bringing it up a little bit more three-dimensional, then more, and then finally to figuring out what all the parts really look like, right? So it's a bunch of steps, because you can't draw this in story panels that are just, you know, small. So you build it up, you bring it up. Yeah, I think that's your next step. I think you got everything else worked out pretty well. Camera, slug, panel, perspective, down shot. Yeah, that's the only thing that I would say. So make that a note for yourself, is to start with a character, you know, you're designing him. His legs look like they're a little short. Right? And so just make a mental note of that, unless you really want this strange little sock puppet proportioned character, or technically you could look at it the other way around, that the character just has an enormous head, right? Because you could look at it just from one shape of the body being dominant, and then the other was the error. And so just make that mental note for yourself to always kind of maybe start with this and then go back and rub it down a little bit, and then put the real proportions back on top of it. All right. Magnus, to see some hands from Magnus, please. Woo!
Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. Kyle, you're here tonight, Kyle, right? Kyle, are you here? Maybe I saw your name because you were not here. Oh, I got an email from you. Okay. So this is being recorded. Kyle is absent right now. This was from last week. So he heard all of what we talked about. There's nothing new right there. Riley. Okay, so this is a little weird. I'm sorry, weird. And the reason for why I said that is because you've got like, it's against gray, which is a bit unusual, but you've got what would be highlights in the eye against black lines on a gray board. You would only pick gray unless you were really shooting for midtones and highlights and shadows, and using the gray as midtones. So stay with just a regular white background and don't worry about the highlights. I would worry more about the three-dimensional volume and the build of your character. I think they need a little bit of work. Again, I think that this is an example of trying to find the final line without having a really good secure rough underneath it. So for instance, you've got this line right here, which is his line of, technically his line of action. And I appreciate that, but if you were drawing the head first, that remember that the line of action is balanced, so that if we were holding it like a piece of wire, it would not fall over. And so you've got your line of action not going to the left enough, and your character looks like he's falling over to the right a little bit. If I took the same kind of proportions and said, okay, there's my torso. Okay. And then you kind of figure out where his hips, his shoulders are, and then you put the neck in there, you're going to see that this enormous neck that you've given your characters kind of odd.
Oh,
And in the world of cartoon, you can either draw the neck going forward, which it does anatomically, or you can do it cartoon wise that it goes backwards. It's up to you. But then you, if you want him to be muscular, then you can have his deltoids here. And this, drawing the line of action like this gives you a chance to really play with the pose and saying, just get those feet wide apart. Give him a bit more drama in that pose. Get his hands up on his hip right there, and get that arm right up there. You know, that's fine, but you can see just this drawing over the top of what you've done is much better. Get the eyes to be in the middle of the head.
okay.
Because he's I know he's looking down, but you know, and then get this widow's peak here, give him some ears. Your characters need ears. And so just with that little adjustment, I think your characters look better. But give him a little bit of a butt, right? And you give him a little bit of a belly too, that would work.
Trying
So
to be
that's-
all muscle.
What's that?
Just trying to be like all muscular and like, you know, like kind of like a bully type of thing. So yeah.
So if that's true, then he should be a bit taller than the other two. And when you're working with this shape for the torso, which I have just like this, you know, you might want to work with a torso that's quite a bit bigger. You know, let him have some more girth. All right, I'm going to clear this. Take a screenshot if you need to quickly.
I'm gonna take a picture right now.
Okay.
And got it.
Okay. Doo-doo. All right, we saw some of this last week. So remember, studying these dynamic poses is going to do you well. You know, what does this actually look like? Your camera might be a little far away. Hopefully we talked about that a little bit last week, but if the guy is bowling, you know, how does that look? His leg goes forward and you slide, and this leg is behind it, right? What does that bowling pose look like? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that it's incorrect for him to bowl with his left hand, because we can see this area better. And it would be better for your silhouette to have his left arm up in the air and his right hand in this space over here. You know, unless there was something where you really needed him to be left-handed. So in trying to study a pose like this is, in terms of dynamics, is a better study than this. So,
Okay.
you know, go to that thing called YouTube and watch The Big Lebowski like 4 times and figure out what good bowling poses look like. They're all over the place. Okay, you did a camera shake, and then that looks okay. All right, that's a better pose. That little crossover right there, but his torso is a little long. Generally, to me, it looks like your camera's a little far away. You know, I think that you could play with the idea of moving your camera so that your characters are in the screen better. All right, so he does a strike 2, and you break the 4th wall here. I'm not sure what's happening with these T's.
Well, those will be eyes, and they want it, and the both of their eyebrows, and they're just, and you know, like look at the camera, eyebrows raised, that kind of thing.
I don't see this very often. So work on this design, and try to have a little bit more clarity with your overall shape
Okay.
of your of your lines. You know, again, just study the size of the head. You know, you've got characters that have big heads, And so you're gonna need a line of action to drive their upper torso. And then if your arms are crossed, I think you should study these poses just a little more carefully. And I think that it may be it kind of a cheat to just draw a couple of lines for the eyes and eyebrows. Study that a little bit more.
Oh.
All right, then the third guy comes in. And he bowls backwards towards the camera and breaks the lens. Did I get that correct?
Yeah, it slipped out of his hand and it hit somebody, and then Iris in transition the end.
So does the bowling ball hit the camera, or does it just go off the end?
It go off the end, and it says and it hits somebody like off screen.
Okay. So a couple of things. It looks like you spent a good amount of time on the perspective for the lanes, and you copy and pasted them into your story panels, but then you let the line here live right through your characters. So, I would recommend trying to draw a little bit more freehand and to actually spend a moment to draw your characters on top of that line instead of in them being invisible. I think that, again, I think the story's working, but I think that even in here, I think your camera could be closer. So I know that that's what I said, that I didn't want you doing cuts, but the idea was that you take the story now and then go in and manipulate the camera so that there's good stuff to see and you're not always like the spectator from 30 feet away. And your file name is out of control, Riley.
Oh,
No, Riley, no.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'll change it. I'm
All right,
sorry.
can I see some hands for Riley, please?
Thank you.
All right, let us continue. Oh, yeah, okay. All right, Philip. All right, Philip, I'm not sure what I'm looking at here. I'm guessing this is a map.
A map.
Where's your 180 line?
I was doing it like you showed me the perspective part, so I could draw characters.
So what are these things that look like a spider web? What is that?
Those are my perspective line.
No. Your perspective in a map is non-existent. Or if there are perspective lines in the map, then they end up being just a grid. Because your camera, your camera is really far away. Your camera is 50 feet on top of the scene. And as these, and this, so this is a flat plane. This is an aerial view. As you bring the horizon down into the camera view, the real camera view, then you start to see the perspective. Yeah, so those lines right there are incorrect. What you should be drawing is oops, got that back in there too, is your 180-degree line. Because and you should draw these cameras just a little bit more clearly. Draw them with a rectangle and a triangle so that we know that this is camera A. And then the other thing that's not here is, where's your stuff? Is there a tree right here? Building, and there's a building. Where is this building? Grocery store, building, dog. So there might be another building or a driveway or a car. This is what you need. You need the cars that are in there in your 180-degree line.
So I got the building, a tower, a dog, a man, a bed, a bridge, a house.
You need to draw these better, even though it's just a map, just draw them more like you've designed your characters. And so that's missing, right? And really in your map, you can just indicate them by little shapes or whatever. All right. All right, so what I'm looking at here are just very rudimentary, a jump from the written script into the visual script.
Right.
And I think that in the whole process of doing storyboards, that this kind of study like this is something that some people use when they're really just kind of thinking about where the story panels land. If one thing that's wrong here is that I think that this is still looking like a map, and for your exposition or your master shot, the thing that I think that will really help you is you give yourself like a stage like this, and just draw the horizon, a normal horizon. Just draw it right through the story panel. And then figure out, do you want 2-point perspective? Is a 1-point perspective fine? Do you want the 1-point perspective to be off center a little bit? And then start to develop your grid. And then switch colors. Give yourself a grid in the sky. Because I think that this stuff right here, it's just translating the script bits into what you're thinking for the camera. And I think that you could do all of these bloop, 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 bloop in less than 8 minutes. Right? You should be able to do like all of these little thumbnails in 8 minutes. Then go back and then start thinking about what you're actually drawing. Where's the building? And so if you looked at your map, your building behaves to the vanishing point. And so put that building in there. Are there cars? If there are cars and they're in front, draw the cars as just Kleenex boxes. And then you can cut into the Kleenex boxes and draw them as cars. Pay attention to that vanishing point over there. What's over here? You know, you can switch colors so you don't get confused. If you're exterior, you know, maybe there's some trees back there. So, you know, give yourself the proper tree. Swinging from building to building. And so if I Z out of this just a little bit, you might get a lot of help from that little thing that I just showed you from the Pinterest thing or the Instagram thing. Because your buildings might be behaving like this, right? You might have the tops of the buildings, and that if Spider-Man is going from building to building, then he's going to swing from here to there. You know, so using that same grid, now we have these tall buildings. So I think that you need to now make this the translation from what you've got are very rudimentary sketches now into the real thumbnails. And remember that thing was this. So this Mitch Lee UWE, and just look for him on Instagram. And he just posted this like today, you know, and he's showing you how to do a universal grid. And so pay attention to that. He's also got some other stuff in there that might help you, like this little thing here. But then don't be afraid to just go out there and say tops of buildings in perspective, right? Tops of buildings in perspective. And then you just click it to image. What do you need? Right? What helps you the most? Right? You know what I mean? And use your image search to help you figure out where you place your buildings, and then where you place your cameras, and then where you can place your action with inside those cameras.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that you may, so now take this and see if you can bring these thumbnails up to about twice the size of their thumbnail. They're still thumbnails. And instead of, so go from 8 minutes to like 20 minutes. See if you can redo everything, just like I showed you, wherever that went. Here, quickly. Don't spend forever doing it. You're trying to do it fast. Okay? I think your
So
story.
I have to reorganize those thumbnails.
Well, these are just really too simple. I want them to look more like what you've been seeing your classmates doing. All right, so can I have some hands for Philip, please? Yay. You know you're doing it right if you're having fun with it, so don't struggle. If you're going to copy and paste this story frame, Philip, are you listening?
Yeah.
If you're going to copy and paste the story frame, oops. Hold on. I don't know what I did. If you're going to copy and paste the story frame,
I don't see it.
hold on a second. All right, can you see it now?
Yes.
No, you use a little bit bigger of a story frame. And then make sure that the proportions are correct, 16 by 9. And whatever that means, because 16 by 9 translates to 8 by 4.5, which is still too big, or 4 by 2.25, which is still too big. And then finally, the thumbnails is 2 by 1 1/8. And so that's a really good story thumbnail size. 2 by 1 1/8. That's the same ratio. And then when we do final boards, this 4 by 2.5, this is a good one for like final boards. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, Randy. Okay. Is he's playing with the dog?
Yeah.
Randy, okay. I'm not sure what this green arrow is right here. Is that the coconut falling on him?
Yeah, on the frame on the left, it shows it a rock hitting a coconut and ricocheting, and then it hits him in the head.
It hits him in the head. Okay. Why did you make it look like the rock has ears or the coconut has ears?
Oh, it'll explain when you keep going further.
Okay. So the plane comes in. Remember, I want you using 16 by 9. So these panels are not the right ratio. So you copy, these are closer, but they're not correct either. This one's too wide. This one's a little too short. And remember that the purpose of that is your composition. It affects your composition. All right, and I think your drawings need a little bit of work. I think you're drawing a little too heavy. Nope, hold on a second. All right, sorry about that, guys. so yeah, I think that what you want to be doing here. Oops, hold on. Is head, line of action. If he's bending backwards, draw that line of action backwards. Draw the body as a form. Figure out where his feet are. Let this arm dangle. Let that arm have a good silhouette. Let this one be up, have a really good silhouette. Like I said, act this out, right? Don't be like Tom Cruise, he's a bad actor. Act this out. Be like Judd Hirsch, he's a great actor. What does this pose look like? This is a much better pose. Then, when you've got this pose, then you can get your camera and say, I only need this much of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So studying it like this is a really good example of not trying to color in the story frames. Because in order to get this pose correctly, you really need to do head, line of action, push it. We talked about pushing poses last week. Push that pose, then get the body on it, then get his legs, get this hand to be, maybe it's up on his hips, right? And then this arm is like shielding. You know, so this is a little bit more pushed. How much can you push this pose? You know, how far backwards can this pose go? Well, you know, his knees are bending now. Oh my God, you know, the plane is right overhead. You know, this hand is dangling. So the idea of expression in these poses is starting with the head, drawing the line of action, thinking about the overall proportion of the body. And I would rather see lines that are rough and scratchy like this than just kind of too heavy. Your slug is wrong. So you don't do a continuous frame count here. In order to do the proper slug, what you're doing is you're telling your story team how long this shot lasts for. So having 6 seconds here is way too long. This would be 48 frames or 2 seconds. This would be 1.5 seconds or 36 frames. Okay, do you remember that?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so then he sees the plane, the dog comes back. All right, and so now your gag is that they both of them draw quickly in the sand and it just says hell, and then your pilot just ignores them because it says hell.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't understand how the coconut turns into a Viking helmet.
No, it just makes it look like horns, like if he was a devil or a demon.
So, but that connection, that visual connection is missed. You know, coconuts are round. And so if you wanted it to have horns on it, I think that you would actively have to put horns on it. And so the gag would be is that your pilot kind of sees him as like a devil when he's going to like, oh, it says hell and he's a devil and that's a devil dog, right?
Yeah.
So I think you need to work on selling that point as you're drawing instead of just letting your idea kind of just end at the end of your pencil, because we need to see this. We need to see that he's made himself devil horns. And you know, I'm not quite sure exactly what the dog is doing so that he looks like a devil dog. But I think that you would want to develop this so that it is much more sinister of a shot closer here, so that when we pull out to reveal that, so that the pilot is confused that this does look like hell and that he didn't just misspell the word. All right, can I see some hands for Randy, please? Yay! All right, I think we have 2 more. I'm sorry this is taking a little longer than I had expected. All right, Paolo. All right, so what I'm looking at here is your map.
Mhm.
And this is your establishing shot or your master shot. And your beginning of your boards, your bird, landscape. Bird flying in. Hits the tree. 8 seconds is a long time. Careful with that.
Time? Okay. I have a hard time like choosing the seconds.
No, no, that's okay. I would just ask you, and all of you who are doing your slugs, is to now just center your attention on the story panel, hit your stopwatch for 4 seconds, and you'll see, geez, that's a little long, right? So all of them are a little long. I think that if we had said that your story's duration in its entirety should be 30 seconds long, this is 9, this is 13, this is 17. So you're already, when the bird hits the tree, it's like you're already at 30 seconds. How long does it take a bird to fly into the shot and hit a tree? So from the beginning of your title card to the place in time where the bird hits the tree should really be like half of this. This should be like 3 seconds total. 3 seconds total, not 26 seconds. All right, so the guy walks in and he picks up the bird. And the bird's got a little noggin thing. And be careful of dialogue inside the story frame. Your dialogue should be underneath in the dialogue part of the frame. All right, so I think that what you want to imagine is that you can do your story reads without the dialogue. So if you see that the hand is coming and feeding the bird's grapes and he's happy, then that's okay. You don't need the words. But when the bird says, "It's my family," I think that that's a really hard thing to read in terms of story. So is he thinking that the guy is his family?
No, the birds on top.
The bird's what?
Like the little circles, those are meant to be birds.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. And so he just flies off with them.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so I think your story is working, but I think that, yeah, try to do it without these words because that's confusing. I think that what you want to do is, if you can see me in the monitor, right? You want to like imagine that you're the bird and you're like, and then you like, your camera's there, right there, and then your bird goes like this, and he reacts. And you can see is like, and he's happy, and then he cuts back, and you see that that you do a 2-shot with the bird. Here. On the guy's hand with his wings. Hold on a second. I'm going to do this just a little differently. So you draw the bird so that he looks up that way. And then he looks back, and then you see that the guy holding the bird, right? Head, line of action. Draw him really big, right? Shoulders, hand, he's holding him. The other hand was the one that had the grapes. So that's over here now. And the grapes are in this area right here. And then he can turn and look, right? So you can even draw another little pose over here where the head is turned. And you see both of his ears in the back view. So, and then he can turn back And then the bird can like nod, the bird can go, okay, thank you. And then he can spread his wings and fly away. It also might help if, you know, you could do a little thing where the bird jumps on his shoulder and gives him a little hug, right?
Mm.
Before he flies away. I think that would be a nice appeal in terms of just story. And the thing that I just drew right there is you committing to doing these shots right here a bit closer. You know, you see you got that right. You've got that idea right there, but your camera's way too far away. So
Okay.
it's good that you have this idea in there. Now put your camera really close so that you can explore what their facial expressions look like, and that the bird is thankful and the guy's happy and that he's saying goodbye, but he's made a new friend and maybe someday he'll come back. Okay, got it? Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have one more. Tristan.
Yep. So the map and the script are the same, but I made changes to the thumbnails as you suggested.
Okay. All right, I think you've got this under control here. The drawings are a bit rough. But I think that's because they're small, but I think that you've got a control over the camera now. All right, yeah, and it was last week where I did mac and cheese on you, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the only thing that I would like to see then is just a couple of little things. I think that your sketches need a little bit of work. Even though you are drawing at the right size, I think you could still be exploring more of a sketch style of drawing. And you said you did have a tablet with a stylus, right?
Yes, that's what I've been using.
Yeah, I think that you just want to work out to get a little bit more clarity on your line. And please remember, horizon, and draw the perspective grid for the ground plane and the perspective in the sky, and then just copy and paste it in your story panels as you need it. Because I think that allows you to really study background, midground, and foreground elements, instead of in panel 12 where you just have a line and then your guy standing there. I think that, you know, even though they are thumbnails, just copying and pasting that grid, especially if you know that the camera's not moving around very much, or that you're only zooming and panning, you're basically on top of the same grid. And then you can spend a few extra moments really studying that pose. For whatever it's worth, I think that if we look at this, that you've got the wolf in a close-up, which is working, but we don't really see the guy too close until you get to shot panel 17. So I think that when you are here, like when you're here, you could truck from here to show the guy really close too, before you pan out to reveal where they both are. And then you can go over here. So you've got the wolf in an extreme close-up, but your guy is still just a little too far away. And remember, these little shapes are not reading because there's no grid. I don't know if it's a cliff or if it's a, I don't know what it is. My eyes don't know what it is. I have to go all the way back to your script and your map to figure out what the things are, if they're supposed to be big rocks or something like that.
Right.
All right. All right, so those are my notes right there. Thank you, Tristan.
And thank you for the
All right.
advice.
All right. So let me stop sharing here. All right, deep breath. Okay. So I just wanted to remind everyone that if you were responding to any of the notes that I just gave you, that you can still put those in the late missing redo folder. I will be putting point values on this over the next couple days. So once you see that, you say, hey, you know, I could probably do better. And if it is better, I will give you some extra points. All right. I didn't think this was going to take so long today. So let me introduce your next project. Does anyone want to take a guess what the next project is? Alex, want to take a guess? Got to turn your microphone on, Alex.
We are going to do a story with thumbnails.
That's great. How long is that story going to be?
A minute and a half,
No,
30 seconds.
30 seconds exactly. So in your notes, let me do notes for you. Let me think of the clever way to do this. All right. All right, so I just brought up my little animator thing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a chalkboard. And I'm going to give you your notes like I was drawing with chalk. All right, so you are going to be doing thumbs. You know, always. This should be a 2-week project. So, you know, I won't be looking at grading it next week. For exactly 30 seconds, which is exactly 720 frames. And what do you know about 30 seconds? What kind of animation or short movies are exactly 30 seconds long?
Oh, commercials.
Commercials. So, put it right there. This has to be exactly 720 frames. So remember what we do. ASL is average shot length for American and international film right now is around 3.5 seconds. So I'm going to just put like a little tilde right there. It's around 3.5 seconds. So if you have 30 seconds and your average shot length is 3.5, then you're going to have maybe 10 shots. You know, that's a lot. That's a lot. 8 shots might be easier to handle. 8 different shots. If you have 7 shots, that's okay too. 4 or 5, 4 to 6 shots is a really good idea. You are selling something. You are selling a product. So you are going to need a short script. If it is a 30-second script, it should just be, if this is 8.5 by a 10 piece of paper, it's just going to be this long. It's just a short idea. 30 seconds goes by very, very quickly. You know, maybe a half a page. And remember, verbs. So I would limit this to 2 characters. And then once you've got your script and your characters, you're going to need a map. You're going to need thumbnails. Right? Pay attention to your map. When you're drawing your map, you should be drawing what the camera sees as background, midground, and foreground elements. All right, so there's a couple other things that I wanted to mention here. So I'm just gonna put like a, let's see if I can do this. Perfect. All right, so we started here, right? Thumbnails for, this is a 2-week project, 30 seconds, commercial, you're selling a product. So what you're gonna need then is a character of some kind. It could be any kind of character. You're gonna need a prop. You're going to want to do a master shot, so you probably want to figure out what your environment looks like, right?
Billy?
This is, yeah,
Sorry, what's a master shot?
a master shot is just basically your establishing shot,
Oh, okay.
but wider. In filmmaking, if the director knows that they want their camera to be like right here for the final shot, then what they'll do is they'll shoot wider and they'll hold it longer, and so that the editors can go in and they can use any part of this for B-roll or for anything, but basically you're doing an establishing shot that's a little wider. All right, so then now I'm just going to do this again here. So I draw a drawing after. So this is just a reminder that the best way to do this is that you can do this one of 2 different ways. One, you can just take your map and you can draw your environment and you can get your perspective grid set up for both the environment, whatever is in your environment, whatever's in that perspective plane. And this is the best way to work, because then you can kind of just figure out what all the stuff from your map translates to. You can say, oh, I need a big tree over here. You can say that I need something in the foreground over here. And then you can go back in and start to look at your 16:9 ratio. So this is the best way to do this, is to just draw your first shot, your establishing shot, and then put your framing on top of it. It's okay to do your master shot first and big or bigger, because then when you're doing your thumbnails, you can go back, you can refer to this and say, what did that shot look like? Well, again, now you can just draw your background, the stuff that was in that shot. You can kind of fix it if you need it a little bit. You can still get your perspective in there. And even though you're drawing 2 by 1 1/8, then you can get your panel, your story panel, exactly where you want it. You know, it's at that point, then you can say, oh, now I'm going to go back in and get my 16:9 ratio. And I really think that you should measure this so that it's absolutely correct. That looks okay there before you copy and paste it to the next shot, right? And then you're still drawing, and then you can just figure out what happened. You can have, like I said, if you're going to have 4 or 6 shots, that's going to depend on your script. So, and remember when you're writing a script is to pay attention to these verbs, and you can sell anything you want. You can be funny, you can be serious. It could be sort of live action oriented. It could be animation oriented. But again, your thumbnails are going to drive your final. So again, I'll just do this one more time. So 16:9 translates to 8 by 4.5, and that's too big. Nobody draws at this size. You know, this would be 16:9 would be a full size background if someone was going to do like a watercolor. So then 4 by 2 1/4 is your full board size, and then 2 by 1 1/8 is what this should look like. So this is 2 inches by 1 1/8 inches. That is a a good thumbnail size to draw at. It's just a ratio, so if you want your thumbnail to be a little bigger, then that's okay. But remember, I want to see you drawing through the story frames. If you're drawing with the 1-point perspective, get your perspective plane in there. Draw through the picture plane. Put a perspective in the sky. There's always perspective in the sky. Refer to your map. What is in this shot? Don't ever draw a tree for me that is just, I won't even do it. Don't give me a lollipop. That's not a tree. So each one of your story panels needs to have a background, a midground, and a foreground element in it. And remember that when you're doing this, your map is basically setting your cameras. You know, so where are you? Are you inside a pet store? There's a front door, there's a counter, there's aisles. And back here, there are cages with animals. And for the love of all the Greek gods together, you don't have to have a story about a pet store. And, you know, maybe there's something right here. You know, think about this just in terms of what your environment is from your story. You can go on YouTube and watch a bunch of 30-second commercials. So you can, and then count how many shots are in there. Every time there's a cut, count, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, so it's only 6 shots in that 30-second commercial. Where is your 180-degree line? Your cameras can only be on this side. Remember that this is a scene, and each one of these cameras is a cut. Each one of these cameras is a shot. You can have action. Your character A can go from here to here to here, and your camera can follow them. So use your map wisely. But then here you've got background, midground, and foreground elements. So that when you're doing your drawing of your first bigger thumbnail that we did here, it's going to help guide you. You know, what does this camera see? What does this camera see? It's similar, but it's wider, right? All right, so once again, a 30-second commercial. So that means that if in your storyboard you do this correctly, where your panel numbers are here, and your shots are here, SH1, SH1, it's still the same shot, SH1. And remember that when I do this, whenever I have a new shot, I always circle it, so that every time I see shot 1 without a circle, that means that it belongs. That means that even though we had only 4 shots, that when we were looking at it, this is panel 2 for shot 1, panel 3 for shot 1. So that you have multiple panels for the shot. And then this is your slug, so that if I say this is 48 frames, that all of these numbers underneath here have to add up to 720 exactly. So I would recommend you using frames instead of seconds, but it's up to you. Remember, action, camera, dialogue. Don't go too heavy on the dialogue. And then I always like to talk about inner voice. If a character is not speaking, or if they're just reacting, this is always important to an animator. What is the inner voice? Action, camera, dialogue. You know, and a lot of story panels will have other, whatever notes that you want under there. And when you do this, you cannot have your story panels crammed right next to each other. It's impossible to do thumbnails or even final boards if your story panels are crammed, just don't do this. Don't do it. Give yourself room to draw and draw freehand, right? All right. You're doing it right. It should look easy. Exactly 30-second commercial.
What does OM mean?
What?
You got BB and OM.
Oh, that's BB O'Malley. That's me. All right, everybody okay? Questions, comments, complaints, conundrums, criticisms? Oh, one more thing. Thank you, Alex. Thanks for reminding me. If you have 4 shots, let's say, and each one of those shots has 4 panels, right? Each one of these shots then is somewhere around 6 seconds or so, 5 seconds, 5 or 6 seconds. And each one of these is 4. That means you should have somewhere between 16 and 24 panels, depending on action and any other variable. So somewhere between 16 and 24 panels. Again, I would like to see your thumbs, your script, your thumbs, characters, your map, and then a series of thumbnails. When you're doing your thumbnails, if you have 16 or 20 of them, remember to do them fast. You do not want too much detail in there. You want to draw them quick. You want to get your cameras in the right place and know it's working before we go into 2 weeks from now and making adjustments. And actually next week, we'll talk about how to draw at this, how to draw at this 4 by 2 1/4 inch size, right? Remember that all of these slugs should add up to 720 frames. Exactly. And I will be able to tell if it's too long or too short. You don't have to be scientifically accurate about the slug right here, but it should be close. If I'm looking at anything that has 40 story panels here, that's going to be way too much. Because if you've only got 30 seconds, that means this ASL has been pushed down to 0.8. And that's way too fast of a cutting. So this is too much. If you only have 3 story panels, you know, it can be done, but you want to show action within those shots. And so in a story panel where you have a character who's moving from one position to another and then going around a corner to another, you can do this. So you have position A, position B, position C. You know, maybe they were reaching up and grabbing something, and now they're holding something and they're walking away with it. So you have position A, position in C, position. So you can have a little arrow indicating the movement. You know, you can do that. You can show multiple poses within the story panels. You can have arrows working in there, that's fine. But remember, horizon, perspective grid. And I'm drawing this backwards, but that's okay. You know, background, midground, and foreground elements. Put the perspective in the sky. build yourself an environment. You know, even in this very rough thumbnail form, you can kind of see an environment starting to happen. All right, everyone got the idea?
Yes.
A commercial. You got to sell something. All right. One more little thing, and that is that because it's a commercial, you might want a product shot. At both the beginning and the end. So your title card, you know, if you're selling a can of beans, you can start with your product shot. And so this is a start, and you can end with the product shot too, where the family's sitting around the dinner table with the can of beans. You know, you can think about logos. There's all kinds of stuff you can think about when you're talking about product shots. So my recommendation is to go watch some commercials, see what they look like. And if I haven't ruined your ability to enjoy watching a 30-second commercial by Saturday night, you're going to hate me, because now you're going to be looking at commercials completely differently. A 30-second commercial. And just for your own interest's sake, if that's possible, it's that sometimes a production studio is working with an ad agency, and the ad agency is a go-between between Coca-Cola and the animation studio. And the agency will just say, oh, well, we want 1 30-second commercial, but we also want to do 3 10-second pulls from it. And the animation studio says, okay, do you want any different action going on in there? And sometimes the agency goes, well, yeah, and they'll do a board for each one of those pulls. And even though the studio might only be animating a few extra shots for the pull at the beginning of the pull or the end of the pull, the agency might be ordering actually 3 or 4 minutes worth of animation, but most of it is just all the same 30-second animation within the shot. But the agency is paying the studio for 2 minutes worth of animation. And that's why when I say that by the end of my run at Wild Brain that I worked on 250 commercials, it's because we did shock tarts for 30 seconds, and then I had to do the pulls. So I did shock tarts 2, shock tarts 3, shock tarts 4, all the camera sheets, all the different boards. And even though most of the animation was the same, there were little bits of fixes that did in there. So some of the animators said that they only worked on shock tarts, but I did 8 different commercials for shock tarts. And that's just the way it works with the agencies to the studio. But you're only doing a 30-second commercial. Don't worry about the pulls. But if you ever hear that word, that's what that means. That they're pulling from the main animation to make something different. Sometimes it's really simple. Sometimes the pull is just 10 seconds of the 30-second commercial. It's a straight pull. And all I had to do is 20 minutes to figure out what the camera sheets look like. Sometimes it's a 10-second pull plus 5 seconds pull from the other place to make a 15-second. And I had to do the camera sheets for that too. Philip, it looks like you have your hand up. What?
I'm
No, the answer is
holding
no.
my head up. So for the thumbnail, I noticed that you said doing it fast, and I was trying to put less detail on in my thumbs, so there only like a dog in there, a person in there.
Follow my advice. Draw your master shot or your establishing shot from your map first, and you can draw it bigger. so that you know what your shot looks like. And then when you do each of your thumbnails very quickly, just a horizon, a quick perspective grid, go back to your map, what's in the back,
Yeah.
what's in the midground, what's in the foreground, draw it really quickly.
Okay.
And hopefully next week I can just say, make these little changes and you're done. And we can spend the rest of the time watching movies. Or
Ooh, movies.
I'll give Alex a script and he'll act it out for us. Oh, you know, it was funny today, my professor in my class for state said that, well, we had to go rent a video or borrow a video camera so that I can show San Francisco State and the education department how I teach. And they're gonna have me recording myself. And they had this little document that showed all the stuff that was available, like the camera and the tripod and extra microphone and batteries and chargers and the case and stuff like that. And then in the list over on the bottom, it said puppets. And I was like, what? You got puppets over there? And apparently they do mock-up stuff for kids. Because when the teachers are teaching kindergarten and preschool, they have a whole bunch of puppets over there. I can't imagine that they're really cool. You know, I can't imagine that they look like anything close to Sesame Street. So, but I'll tell you, when I see them, I will give you a report on what the puppets look like. All right, I kept you 6 minutes longer. I know you hate me, but IDC.
I don't care.
Right. All right, you got your directions for next week. If you're doing it right, it should look easy. All right, you got this, everybody? I'll put the recording on.
I have a question.
Yes.
How long do you think this should take to do? Just, I know it's gonna take me much longer, but I'm just kind of gonna feel for, you know, what my target is by the end of semester if we're doing something.
Sure. So thinking up the idea might
So
take.
it took
you-
5 minutes. I already have.
Well, yeah, I know, but some people might get started a little slowly. You know, they might go look at commercials or YouTube or something, or even broadcast television. And that would count. You know, you're doing your research at that point. You could spend a whole day thinking. You could spend a whole day just thinking and watching and thinking and watching and doing a couple sketches. But when it comes time for writing the script, you should just be able to throw it out there. You should say, oh, this is where I start, and I'm going to be done in 30 seconds. So you only draw the verbs. And so the script should come out in 4 minutes. Once you've got the script, look at it, and then drawing your characters might take 10 or 15 minutes. And then once you've got your script and your characters, then draw your map. That's going to take 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Once you've got your map, you know, look at it critically and go, okay, now I can do my establishing shot. And in perspective, that's going to take you 10, 20 minutes. So, and then when you've got that, once you've got that part and you know it's working, then your thumbnail should just be really quick. Your thumbnail should be shot, 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 cut, cut, shot, shot. And you're drawing really quickly. You know, try to do what I just did. If you've got that rough animator application, draw white on top of black. It might be a really nice departure for you instead of trying to draw black scratchy lines on a white background. It might give you just a different feel for it. The whole thing, if it's more than 2 hours, you're doing it wrong. Total, start to, you know, once you've got the idea and you've written that script and you're ready to upload it for next week, if you're taking more than 2 hours, you're doing it wrong. Hour and a half, good. If you did it in an hour, then you should be professional at that point. 2 hours. Is that a hand raised, Chloe?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but-
have a question, but I know it's late, so would you?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
You guys can go if you want, but you have stuff to do, but I'll stay around. Which you need?
Okay,
Oh, the
I
answer's no.
darn it. I was wondering, so I wanted to improve my gestures, like my character gestures, because I definitely have fallen out of practice since your last class. And so
Yeah.
I guess my question was like, I really struggle with like twisting the torso, especially when characters are like bending down or when you know, like a character is like turning. What's a good way to like practice? Because I've been practicing like quick gestures, but I still struggle with that and that twisting torso motion in particular.
Practice doing this with like a rubber eraser,
Mhm.
right?
Ooh.
And then just draw the bottom of the eraser lightly and then twist the top. And you get these little bend lines in there. So this line here is now behind you, right? And then, so there's a little bend right there. Now this line right here is over here. And so figure out what that little break looks like. And then keep pushing it further. What does it look like if this part is all the way around the other side? And then draw the bend. And then draw this part on the bottom just the way you had it. And that's just a place to start, is to draw. And then you have to figure out what that twisting looks like. You know, clean it up a little bit. I know that we didn't go over that too heavily in that drawing class. Was it your drawing class or animation?
That one was drawing for animation. We did a lot of gesture. This is something that I've had a really hard time with, especially when I'm doing quick drawings. It just looks like a mess really quick and I just redo the whole thing.
You know, look at, you know, yeah, you can start planar,
Okay.
like a piece of paper,
Mhm.
and then you can move more into objects like that. That would be fine. But yeah, so you're starting planar, then go into more three-dimensional. There's one particular one that is from an animation text, and I'm not seeing it. Yeah, but once you get into the visual part of it, everything on your search should start trending.
Okay.
Now even Grim is starting planar. All right, I'm gonna go get a drink of water. You guys, I take any questions on Yahoo, and we will see you at 6:30 next week. And I'm always here a little early. So if I see people coming in at 6:15, I'll usually let you in.
Thank you, Billy.
Unless you're Chloe, then I'll keep you holding.
Oh.
I'm just teasing you. All right, we'll see you next week. The recording of this will be up in an hour or so.
All right.
All right,
Later, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.